the careers advisors, and as I mentioned briefly, I will be supported by my colleague and also my colleague Jill, who is one of our careers advisors. And yeah, the outcome before we start, really just kind of few housekeeping points. It will be absolutely amazing to hear from you. So please do head over to the chat. As I said, my colleagues are here to kind of go over your queries. So put any questions you might have, and please don't worry, there is no such a thing as wrong answer. We are here to learn, so we are here to support you. So any queries you might have, please go over to the chat. We will also have after each session a Q&A session straight after, so you will be giving kind of little bit few minutes after each session to answer your queries. And this meeting is being recorded. I think my colleague already pressed the record button, so hopefully that's all right with absolutely everybody, and you can access the recording straight after. So what have you got prepared for you this afternoon? As I said, it will be jam-packed 2 hours, and we're starting with my presentation firstly, and it will be basically an overview of what we do in a careers and placement team, so you can understand a little bit better how we can support you. Then in about 15 minutes or so, you'll be joined by my colleague Jill, who will be talking through a CV and how to create a outstanding CV. We will then move on to volunteering section, which will be presented by my colleague Indy. We then break for a couple of minutes to have a comfort break, cup of tea, coffee, a little sandwich. And we start again back at just after 1 o'clock, where we talk about different type of experience, work experience, and how you can gain them. Then we'll have a session about part-time jobs, and we will finish the webinar by talking to a couple of graduates who recently graduated from Roehampton University, and they can give you kind of their tips on how to go on about. So before I tell you a little bit more what we do and how we can support you, it'd be amazing to hear from you. And my question to you really is, have you had any interaction with Careers team so far? So if all of you can head to the chat and just tell us, yes, I have, whatever it was positive, experience, what did you discuss? Or if you haven't had any sessions with us, that's absolutely fine. You can still say that you haven't had any sessions with us yet. So please go over to the chat. I can see there's people are typing. So while you're all typing, if I just start talking, really, as you can see on the picture, we are a very friendly group of people with different specialisms, and we are based at the hub. So you can actually see the building right behind me. I'm not sitting outside the campus, but that's where we are based. And that's called the hub. So as you come in from the main entrance is right on the left-hand side. So you can definitely come and visit us there. And what do we do? Our main provision is really to provide one-to-one appointments with students like you. So you can book an online or face-to-face appointment, and they're every Monday to Friday between 11 and 4. So there can be any general meetings about what can I do with my degree, how do I write my CV, or potentially if you already have like an interview secured and you need to prepare a little bit, we can do a mock interview session, and you can also have work experience and placements appointments. We started doing drop-in sessions in Whiteland, so welcome to all the students who are based at the Whitelands College. So we are there every Monday between 12 and 2. I believe now we're stopping for summer, we'll be starting again in September. And we also provide many different workshops and events throughout the year. So do have a look around because we always put posters up, social media. So we do organize quite a few events throughout the year. We have our online portal as well, and I'll be talking a little bit more about it and how you can kind of engage with us through the online portal. We run various competitions throughout the year. Again, I will have a slide about this. And we also run a Chancellor Careers Award, which is really interesting employability program you can take part in. And again, I have a slide later on. For those who don't want to book an appointment with us for whatever reason, you can also send us an email to careers@roehampton.ac.uk, and we can give you a feedback on your CV or your cover letter or LinkedIn profile, anything that might be. But please be mindful, it usually takes 3 working days. So if you send us something in the morning, please don't expect the answer straight away, because as you can appreciate, I just told you, there are loads of different things we actually do day to day. On site, we also have the placement and internship team for undergraduate degrees. So they're based at the hub, so you can contact them through the career link or internships@roehampton.ac.uk. And as I mentioned earlier, we are very kind of pro social media. So there's any kind of opportunities or events we are running, we always advertise. So please start following us over Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook, I think, and there is a Twitter as well. So it'd be lovely to see more followers on all the social media. And every other week, we also send out newsletters. So hopefully all of you should be receiving them. So CareerLink, hopefully some of you might be aware that it's an online portal where you have loads and loads of different resources available to you 24/7. And again, it would be great to hear from you if you can go to the chat and let Nick and Jill and myself know if you actually access the CareerLink, if you know what it is all about. And if you did access, what did you access? That'll be amazing. And while you're doing that, I'll just keep talking. So this is what it looks like. But yeah, you can have help with your CV cover letter, or maybe you might be going to assessment center. As I mentioned earlier, you're going for an interview and you want to prepare yourself, kind of calm your nerves a little bit. We've got an amazing tool called Interview 360. If you're looking for part-time job, again, there is a job search opportunity available tool on the career link, or you can find out more information about placement and internships, or the Careers Chancellor's Award, or any kind of latest news and events. Everything is advertised on a career link. So how can you access it? For those who know, hopefully you would agree with me. For those who haven't, it's really straightforward through the Nest. You just need to scroll down to the careers and employability, and you just log in with your Roehampton email and password. You can equally scan this QR code, and that's the quickest way. Or you can go to Google Play and App Store and download it through them. And just while we're here on this slide, it's really important to point out, especially for students who haven't had any interactions with us, we are not recruitment agency, so we don't find students' job, but we support you through the process. So whether it's your interview skills or preparing your CV cover letter, anything like that, that's what we do. So how you can book an appointment with us, for those who already booked it, hopefully know that you go through the career link, which I just mentioned, and it's really straightforward. You just click on the tab Careers and Advice Appointments, or again, you can scan this QR code, or you can email us or give us a call. But usually most of the students, it's very straightforward. That's where they go book an appointment through the career link. So the Chancellor Careers Award, as I mentioned earlier, it would be great to see if at least hopefully one or two students completed the Chancellor Careers Award, and if you can maybe give us your feedback, how did you find it? But for students who probably heard it for the first time today, it's really interactive online employability program, which help you with your career pathways and your professional skill development. So there is a really useful video you can watch at your own pleasure. But what it is, it's a program which is kind of divided into 4 different sections. And by doing loads of different quizzes, assessment, interactive tasks, you kind of start reflecting about you and your career. Then you would kind of move on to where you can explore all your options available to you. And then you can find out different ways how to gain experience and develop your skills. And then your last section is about the next steps. So what do you do with all the knowledge you just gained, how you prepare your CV, prepare for an interview, and start doing job application. So I would highly recommend to everybody to, if you haven't done it, do it. It's really, really useful thing to have, and you will receive a certificate upon completion. And as I mentioned earlier, we also run various events such as Launchpad competition. So for some of you might have the kind of entrepreneurial skill in you and thinking, oh, I want to set up a business, or maybe you already have a business set up. So this competition is absolutely amazing for you because you can win up to £3,000 of funding, and it's open to all the students and alumni who have kind of, that business idea. We just literally had last session in January. So it's kind of like a Dragon's Den when you come and you pitch your idea to us, your business, and there is a panel of 5 who then decides who has the kind of best idea or maybe who needs the best support. So it's really, really good thing to do. You can also book one-to-one consultations with one of our consultants here at Career Centre who can support you with your business business case. And we're currently running the Startup Grant Launchpad, which I think the deadline, as you can see on there, is the 26th of May. So you still got a couple of weeks. But this is specifically for already set up businesses. So if you have your own business and you think you might benefit from further advice and guidance and funding, definitely go and apply. And that really brings me to end of my very quick presentation. But as I said, we've got 5 more presentations to follow. So this was just a quick overview of what we do in the careers and placements. And you do go over to the chat if you have any questions throughout this session or any other sessions. As I said, either myself or Nick will be here to support you. But thank you so much for your time. And yeah, these are our contact details right at the bottom there. So you can send us an email or contact us through the career link. And at the edge of each session, I'm going to just post it in a chat room. We would definitely appreciate your feedback. So if there was something you might maybe want to recommend for future events or something you found really interesting or something that was missing it today. So it'd be amazing if you give us your feedback. Brilliant. So if there's, Nick is really great. Yeah, he's posting all these links. That will be absolutely amazing. But yeah, if I just stop sharing my screen and we can move on to my colleague Jill, who can then start sharing her slides and talk about the CVs. Let me know if you need any help, Jill, but I'm sure you'll be absolutely fine.
Okay. Right. Can we all see?
Not yet, but maybe something is happening.
Yeah, wait a second.
Oh, yeah, something is.
Yeah, it's coming through now, isn't it? Okay, that's
perfect.
Good.
That's it. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hello everyone. My name's Jill Harvey. I'm one of the careers advisors at Roehampton, colleague of Yvette's and Nick's. My session is a brief gallop through how to make your CVs a bit more interesting and palatable to employers. So the student who was wanting to move from part-time to full-time, this might very much play to your wheelhouse at the moment. Okay, so this session really is designed in the next 20 minutes to help you to produce a CV, which is all of those things based on the skills that you already have, which will be enumerable as a graduate, and from the other experiences that you've had outside education. So we're really just going to talk you through some strategies to prepare something of quality, build your content, and avoid any mistakes, really. Just to say something briefly about why the exercise is worth doing, your CV can form the cornerstone of really your career development from now on. Yes, it's a way of getting organised on paper, getting all your dates and times in a row, but it's also started the thinking process as an undergraduate to prepare for the graduate labour market, and the start really of creating your professional persona from now on. And obviously it is going to take some work because your CV needs to be strong if you're competing in a graduate labour market. It's your first chance really, and it might just about be your only chance to shine and to get an interview with an employer. Very limited point in thinking that you can make up for a poor CV at interview, because unless it's going to work for you, you're not going to get that far. And the competition out there, although the labour market is buoyant at the moment, that is going to vary as your career develops and time marches on. And shortlisting can be quite a ruthless process. The majority of recruiters may not be professional recruiters or HR people. They may be shortlisting around their current day job. So actually they're looking for reasons to put fewer people on the pile to interview rather than more. So lots of reasons there just to prepare with a bit of quality and devote some time. Increasingly, AI tools are being used to scan for particular words and layouts. So again, some concentration on the task just to get yourself past a computer and in front of a person. Now, some common confusions out there. There's no single way to, there's a single way to write a CV. Yep, I'm sure we're thinking true or false on that one. Because time's short, I'm not really going to throw it open to the floor today because we've got lots to pack in our 15 to 20 minutes. Unfortunately, it's not true. There's no ideal model for a CV. Otherwise, I could just give it you now and we could all go home. But realistically, there are some guidelines, some parameters, and a bit of a rubric that you can follow to make sure that you're on the right lines. And we'll go through what that is. Most employers don't read them. I've heard that one or two times from graduates, we can dash this off and it won't really matter because they won't spend the time. In fact, employers do and don't do that. They may give an initial 30 seconds. Beyond that, they will only really read the good ones. So again, to get past that first scan, you need to start to do some preparation so that CVs really reflect the skills that you have. Getting an interview is a bit of a lottery. Well, actually, no, because although it can be a subjective process, recruitment's not an exact science. If you guide your CV towards meeting the criteria of the employer and you prepare well and do some good work on it and get some feedback, then actually you can make yourself very difficult not to interview. The career service will write your CV for you. No, is the answer to that one. What we will do, however, is if you have a rough draft, we will help you knock it into shape. We'll offer you some constructive feedback on it, and we'll get you to maybe do several iterations actually, but constantly prompt you towards improvement. So we can certainly give you lots of help and support with that, but no, we don't write it on your behalf because it's important that you digest that information so that you can articulate it when you're called for interview, and so that you learn it as a skill because you'll use this document again and again as your career develops. So in brief, the 5 grading principles. We've seen that there isn't a single model, but there are key principles, and it's good to be aware of those, and we'll go through what they are. Need to devote some time and also work on your powers of expression. So it's a matter of using your best English or getting help and support with the English within your CV, so that you've got a bit of care and precision, and that you've no spellings, you've no grammar errors, and that your content is really written specifically for your employer in the sector that you're going for. It's not just a splurge of your life story that you just want to get out there and onto paper. It's crafted. Okay, so content, obviously personal contact details, just the facts up front, name loud and proud at the top. You don't need to call it a CV. It's obvious from its format what it is, and it will usually come with a covering letter that will introduce you. Next is your fanfare factor, your career profile statement. It's a short blurb at the beginning of your CV and actually the start of where you start to share your skills with the employer. That comes next. Then the fundamentals of a CV are the next 3 sections: your education, qualifications, skills, achievements, and work experience. The reason that they're in blue is actually the order that they appear in can be interchangeable depending on the stage that you're at in your career, whether you've just left your degree or you're some way on in your career, and whether or not your education and qualifications in some instances can be trumped by your work experience, which might be more relevant or more recent. So the order that those sections go in may differ, but they're the fundamental central section. And obviously in the UK labour market, a lot of employers are interested in what you're interested in and how you express that. And it's great if you've got, if you can indicate a couple of references or indicate that they're available at the point where they might want to appoint you. In terms of how your CV is written, it helps to set the tone and to keep it bowling along as your reader is reading it, if you can use some really active language, so describing your skills in relation to how you've approached them and your exact responsibilities for them, rather than making generic lists of strengths. So in terms of your profile statement, it's what most people have some problems with writing and putting together, and it's sometimes better written last. So once you're feeling nice and confident and very clear about your, where you've worked, when, your skills and experience you're offering, and you're feeling fairly buoyant, then you can distill that down into that few sentences of information that really says who you are, indicates your direction of travel in careers terms, and highlights the core things that you're able to offer. And if you can write it well, it conditions an employer's response to all the rest of the information on your CV. And although it is still optional, if you feel you can't write a strong one, it is become quite a convention, and employers do now sort of expect to see them. But yeah, it's optional, and we can advise really if you feel that yours is a little weak or isn't working for you. We can advise on content, and we can also perhaps advise when you can replace it with something else and expand another section. So try this as a framework. Make sure that you have given your current circumstances, highlighted what you're able to bring to the organisation, and in career terms where you might want to head. Positive, specific and short. These are some examples that have emphasis on skills at the core of them. As you can see, I've selected different programmes. It really doesn't matter what your subject area is. You can begin to craft an appropriate profile statement, regardless of whether or not you're on a vocational course. What you're doing is you're highlighting and individualising your personal strengths. Education and qualifications, we've said they're part of the core, and again, another place where your skills are starting to be highlighted. This is a good and useful format for your education. Generally, you work with most recent qualifications first, working backwards, so that your school leaving qualifications drop down the pecking order. And the box there shows you a sort of sensible layout for them. At Roehampton, you tend to have quite a lot of modules on your course. You wouldn't necessarily list them all. It's not necessary, so use your common sense, feel what's appropriate for the vacancy that you're going for. And if there's a few key ones that you can highlight because they are particularly relevant to the criteria for the job, then there's no bad thing to do. If you've also done something particular, like a dissertation or a specialist project, or maybe a sandwich placement or something of that nature, then again, that's something that employers are interested in, and part of the way you begin to flag yourself as a skilled individual. Because with things like a dissertation, a lot of the research skills that are incumbent in that, the use of data, the writing at length, the writing analytically, all of those sorts of things are skills that employers can use and will read into that information. Experience, always explain it ideally in a way that demonstrates your skills. You won't have room to make long explanations, and again, your positive action words will come into play there. If you've got any long gaps in your experience, you can't really go into details on your CV about those. Really, they're always best explained in the covering letter that will nearly always accompany your CV, either a letter or a covering email. And wherever you can, quantify your achievements. Measurable achievements really add impact, and we will see some examples of how you might do that as we go through. Again, you haven't really got room to describe each company in detail, but the essence is to make your own role clear and also to make sure that you just explain the type of business that you work for if it's not clear from the name. And always beware lots of repetition in your CV, because it's quite boring to read for employers and doesn't really add any value. So if you've described your duties as a retail assistant, then you probably wouldn't do so again, even if you had another period of retail work, but you would pick out something different from that role. And so a couple of bullet points for each is usually more than adequate, 2, 3. Okay, so where else might you really reflect your skills content on your CV? Well, through a skills section, and it's good to have one of those so that an employer can home in on that. And you'll have a host of sort of subject-specific stuff from your degree course, and obviously from all of the life experience and work experience you've managed to build around that, there will be more. And so what you need to do is to develop the art of selling those in a competitive job market. And they are of real interest to employers. And sometimes they may even trump the fact that you're a graduate, really, if they can see that you know how to do lots of things from the get-go. So what do you think are some of the skills that you've got to offer from a degree? And happy for you to put some of those things in the chat, but we'll go through them in a little detail as well. There's a whole range of skills that are just built into the nature of your academic programme. So since you came to Roehampton, if you came straight from school, if you think carefully, you will be confident and able to do things that you would have, maybe been a little bit shy of, or found more difficult at the point where you walked into Roehampton in year 1. So we're growing and learning all of the time, and inculcated into the body of your degree course, there are lots of skills that you can transfer to all sorts of sectors and all sorts of varieties of jobs. These are some of the examples, it's quite the normal routine aspects of a degree course around essay writing, lectures, group works and dissertation. And if you really think and begin to pick those activities apart into what they mean you can do, there are some really quite a serious skill set there. And what I would encourage you to do as a careers advisor, of course, is to take this beyond your degree course and look at your extracurricular activities and other aspects of your life in exactly the same way, because that is what broadens and bolsters the skill set that you can present to employers on your CV. So as an exercise, you can try mapping those out for something like a typical student role. In Roehampton, we have quite a lot of student ambassadors. So if you actually look at what they do as part of that role and identify individual tasks, it's probably not enough just to state all of the things that you've done, all the duties. What an employer is really interested to know is, well, what can you do as a result of those? So that kind of extra layer of thinking is really important when you begin to put your CV together, because it helps you be much more on point about the skills that you have as a result of your experiences. So you're bringing both your skill claims and the evidence for those together. Okay. And similarly, if with a general transferable skill like communication skills, and you're wondering, well, how do I demonstrate something like that where I'm not repeating myself in my CV? There's some prompts there of all of the places where you might be developing more graduate level communication skills. So think about your experiences, analyse them, be prepared to do a bit of navel gazing. On your application, start to consider your skills very much against the role that you're applying for. Identifying them, working out what your evidence is a preliminary exercise. When you're then actually putting your application together, the order in which you state your skills might be influenced by what your employer is expecting. So some specific examples with a bit of context of how you develop that skill, and linking yourself to the recruitment criteria wherever you can, even as far as mimicking the language in the job advertisement or in the recruitment criteria. It helps as well to use something called the STAR method to show your experience and to keep you brief. And again, you won't have a lot of room to explain these things. So actually being very clear and using what's called smart brevity. So, you know, maximum impact in the shortest number of words, then the STAR technique will help you do that. So describe in brief, you know, what the scenario is and what the problem or task is, and then concentrate in a little bit more detail on the specific action that you took and the results. And it helps really if you can always make these positive, and if not positive, then a learning moment, something that you would do differently next time. If you take, again, fairly standard hospitality or catering experience for a student and you look at techniques for explaining it, you can see there that you can give it real impact. You know, everybody knows what working, you know, behind a counter at Caffè Nero might involve, but you can explain it professionally and succinctly using those kinds of techniques. And finally, through onto your personal interests and your added extras, another place where you can that can speak to your skills. As again, their real value is to give you variety in the skill set that you present, make you look like an active and busy person. And it speaks really to the type of individual you are. You know, you are more than a degree on legs. You, your personality is one which an employer will like to think will fit with its current organisational goals. And having personal interests and being able to offer achievements around your work experience and your education are what help them do that. So for the UK labour market, employers like to see some personal interests, but they shouldn't dominate. A couple well explained is more than enough, but they're a nice way to round off your information. Yeah, so not just a list. Try and be interesting and particular about your interests and highlight positive attributes and skills that they've given you. In terms of formalities, you wouldn't ordinarily on a CV put anything about the salary that you're expecting. Those sorts of discussions are much better done from a position of strength. We wouldn't encourage photographs unless it's required by the employer for security on a CV, although it is common on the continent to put a photograph on your CV for the UK labour market. It sort of turns our equality recruitment practices upside down, so we tend not to encourage that. Great if you can actually provide your personal references, one or two. It's fine to put available on request if you feel it's going to muddy the waters with the current employer. And then, of course, all of those final checks that make sure that your presentation is right. We've not got a lot of time now, so can't go through the details of presentation, but you have got some slides in the presentation on how you might make it look nice, easy to read, and clearly sectioned and logical, some of which we've covered. Okay, so that's a prompt there. If you haven't got a CV at all, of course, you can use a CV builder, which is part of the CareerLink tools that Yvette mentioned, and that will get you off the ground. It will not produce a polished CV, but it will get everything in order. It'll get all your ducks in a row. CV 360, however, is your friend, and once you have a rough draft, if you can drag and drop in Word into the CV 360 tool, it'll do lots of your spell checking and grammar checking for you. And if you can get your target up to around 85%, you know you've got a reasonable working document and something worth sending to a careers advisor to help you add a bit of finesse and polish and help you customise a little for the role that you're going for. Okay, so that brings me to the end. What I hope you've got is a little bit of a sense of the techniques that you can use to improve your CV, the basics of structure and content, and particularly how to showcase your skill set as part of the document. touched on some do's and don'ts there, and there's some examples within the presentation if you want to refer to it at another time, of how to apply what you've learned. There are lots of resources and support on CareerLink. Yvette has covered how you can access those, but has anybody got any quick questions for me?
Can I just say thank you? That was a really informative session. And yeah, please do continue posting your questions in the chat. But I'm a little bit aware of the time. We've got the next speaker lined up. But if anybody has any question, please put them in the chat, or you can always book an appointment with us through the career link or email us at careers@roehampton.ac.uk. So if there's no more questions, thank you so much, Jill. Really appreciate your time this morning. And I think now we're going to move over to Indy. So welcome Indy to the room. She's one of our careers advisors here at Roehampton. And all you need to do, Indy, at the top, can you see take control? And then you can start presenting your slides about volunteering. And then we'll have a quick break after that. So we're nearly there, guys. Well done for being with us here this morning. So I can't see your slide just yet, Indy, but I'm sure they'll come in.
I think they're just loading now.
Oh, yes. Oh, perfect. Amazing. Okay, I'll just mute myself. So over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I recognise a few friendly faces already, so hope you're all doing well and you're finding that these sessions are really informative. My session will be on volunteering opportunities. So let's go ahead. Okay, so the learning outcomes for this session are really to become familiar with what voluntary work is, as well as to understand the benefits of completing voluntary work, and to gain further knowledge on how and where to look for these voluntary opportunities. So I'm going to ask you maybe a few questions on how much you actually know about voluntary work. So if you could use the chat for me and let me know, do you already know what voluntary work is? That would be great. Do we have any responses, Yvette?
Not yet, but I think if you just want to move on and maybe start talking, I'm sure some people
No worries
will
at all.
comment.
Okay, lovely. Okay, so just to recap what voluntary work is. Volunteering is when someone spends unpaid time doing something to actually benefit others. Okay, and also volunteering can be formal and organised by organisations, as well as informal within communities. It should always be a free choice made by the person giving up their time. And I will go into a little bit more detail into what types of voluntary work are available. So another quick question, has anybody within the group already completed any voluntary work of any sort?
Yeah, I literally asked the same question in the chat. So hopefully, somebody was going to speak there.
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay, no worries. Let's continue and I will give you some more information on how you can find that voluntary work and what the benefits are. So let's have a look at the benefits. First of all, from these different types of voluntary experiences, you can gain valuable transferable skills such as obviously communication, teamwork, time management, as well as organisation skills and decision making a lot of the time. It does depend on the type of voluntary work that you do and that you choose to sort of continue with. But really, this can overall help boost your CV with real work and life experiences, something for you to actually talk about when you do go on to any interviews that you may have lined up, as well as expanding your network of employers. A lot of the time, these voluntary experiences can actually develop into more permanent or part-time roles if that's something that you're looking to go into. And also, as well as building your confidence and exploring different areas of work which you may not have actually thought about completing beforehand. And continuing with the benefits, as a volunteer, you may get the chance to actually attend training courses. And these could obviously be more project specific, depending on the employer that you're working for, or could be more general, for example, a first aid course, which I'm sure you will agree are completely invaluable to yourselves. And this, in addition, can always prove quite useful when you are applying for jobs and different roles in the future, something that you can add to your CV that you've actually completed a first aiding course. And also this would enable you to stand out from the crowd potentially. So really, in order to impress as a volunteer, you may be able to name your supervisor as a reference on future job applications. Please do always ask for permission before you do so. So just a quick question here. Do you feel that you would be paid for this voluntary work at all? Anyone want to unmute themselves and maybe talk to me? I've just seen somebody say no. That's correct. You don't generally get paid for voluntary work. However, it depends on the employer. You may get some other benefits. It could be free teas and coffees, maybe some sort of reduction in travel costs. It does depend on the employer. And obviously, that is something for them to discuss with yourselves when you do actually start. So you do not get paid for voluntary work. You can obviously decide on how many hours you wish to partake in that opportunity as well. You know, you can decide on whether it's just an afternoon a week or a month or a day. It all depends on the opportunity and how you can fit that in amongst your studies and other commitments that you may have outside of university life. So let's go on to talk about where you can actually find these opportunities. I'm sure you're all aware we have Grohampton here at the university, as well as many charities that you can always contact. There's just a few that I've named here: British Red Cross, St John's Ambulance, as well as Richmond CVS, something more local to us as well. And I know that Jill's already covered CVs and cover letters with yourselves, which is great, but this is your first opportunity to actually be prepared and also be prepared to attend maybe a short interview. And really that is a chance for the employer to get to know yourselves and what your motivations are in order to actually complete this volunteering opportunity. If you do have a particular organisation or a volunteer role in mind, you could send them a speculative application, which you will find more information on CareerLink. And obviously, you will need to explain why you want to volunteer with them and state any previous experience that you may already have and outline what you can really offer the organisation. Making sure that you find the correct contact name or address for your letter, or even an email where you can direct them to that email. Obviously, booking a careers appointment for any further support which you may require. Depending on the opportunity that you go for, especially if you work with any children or elderly people, you may expect to complete a DBS. That's something that you would need to have in place to ensure that security checks have been taken place. You may need to fund this yourself, or again, the employer may fund this for you or part fund this for you. And again, this is a chance for you to discuss all of those initially when you first look at the role itself. So moving on to LinkedIn, this is another opportunity for you to look for those volunteering opportunities. You can filter through the following: type of position that you're looking for, as well as the date of when it could be posted. So it could be within the first week or a month. Also the experience level that you're looking for, as well as any particular companies that you may want to target as well. in person or remotely. This is something that you're obviously able to choose whether you want to complete this voluntary work in person, or you could do it online. You can obviously join volunteering groups and really be in the know with what opportunities are available to you. Adding any volunteering positions to your profile can help boost your CV, as well as that connection that you have with employers when you are looking for the perfect role. And editing your profile description to show that you are available for volunteering opportunities so that employers can reach out to you. So what types of voluntary work do you think are available out there? Anyone want to unmute themselves? I have mentioned a few already in some of my slides.
So let's say we have nurses who can work as a volunteer in hospitals, but is it possible for students who work in science, who is engaged with the software or type of in these courses? I mean, if after getting this DBS checked, can they go to government industries where they can work where they can get skills, and at the same time work with them for free to get that skills? And I mean, working with them in that specific field area, software engineering or network engineering, it doesn't matter. Is it possible, or it is only for positions for nurse, or for positions who is a teacher who can work only schools or only in hospitals?
Okay, great. Thank you for your question. I understand exactly what you mean. But I think it would depend on the employer. So obviously you mentioned the DBS would need to take place, especially if you're working in a hospital or a school, as you would be surrounded by obviously the elderly or children in both settings. But I think it does depend on the department as well that you're looking to apply for. Obviously with a hospital, there's many different aspects. There's the admin, there's being on wards and different labs and things like that. So there's lots of different departments. I think the best thing would be is to have a look at opportunities on direct websites. NHS website would be a good start to see how you can volunteer and see what opportunities are available. These could obviously vary depending on the time that you're looking at as well. But obviously, if you want to book an appointment, as my colleagues just said, we can always discuss that a little bit further and look into it. But thank you so much for your question.
Does the university support for example, if a student wants to go for a specific organization and that organization demands any reference from university? In some cases, because most government organizations
can I just chip in there quickly? Sorry to disturb you midway, because we're very limited on time and we need to go in a break. Really, what I would recommend, as Indy just said, just book an appointment with us, because every situation is different, every employer is different. So what you're looking for, we can definitely spend that half an hour with you at least and kind of understand exactly what you're after, and we can help you. Yeah. So I would just
Thank you though. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, that's great. Honestly, that's brilliant. Thank you. So continuing on, just to recap, schools we've mentioned, you can work with animals, conservation, social care, volunteering abroad, online is something I mentioned, as well as emergency services, sports coaching. You could coach for a local football club, rugby club, as well as arts and culture groups, and mental health as well. Okay, this is a list of some useful websites which I've put together from different areas. I won't go into all of them, but as you can see, there's quite a wide range there for you to explore and have a look at the different types of opportunities that may be available to you. Which leads me on to my last slide of obviously what we have already covered. I hope at the end of this session you do feel that you are a lot more familiar with what voluntary work is. You understand obviously the benefits of completing this voluntary work, as well as gaining that knowledge of where and how to look for this voluntary work. As mentioned, please do book a careers meeting with any of us, and we would love to continue this conversation further. Thank you for your time.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Indy. Really another informative session. I know it's so much to take in, so that's what I thought. Let's have a quick 5-minute break and we come back at 1 o'clock where we're going to continue with the 3 sessions actually we have. We have all about the different types of work experience, whether it's placements, internships, then we're going to look at part-time jobs, and then we're going to talk to some of our graduates. So feel free to stay in the room. Obviously, we want you to stay as much as you can, as long as you can, but just go and get yourself a coffee, tea, little sandwich, and then we'll be back in 5 minutes. Yeah? See you shortly, guys. Thank you so much for your time this morning, everyone.